Okay, hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel Saturday night stream. And we're going to be looking at all sorts of things, mostly chess and how full of shit Vosh is. Oh, God, I'm really glad that Obamacare totally sorted out the healthcare issue in this country. You just don't have to think about it anymore. Because today I was on healthcare.gov for the first time, since I have largely been out of the country for the past few years. Hasn't really been needed. Well, apart from being stranded here for the past couple, but other than that, I hadn't really had much use for it, so I'd never really looked at it, and wow, isn't that impressive? Assuming that it's meant to be just sort of a midterm project for a Web Design 101 student who probably nobody expected to actually do all that well, and they're just kind of impressed that they managed to actually get the forms to kind of work. That's really impressive. It's great because you get to look at all these plans, and they all just fucking suck. Wow, like literally none of the plans. There are two top-rated hospitals within about an hour's drive of me here. And guess how many of the marketplace plans actually include those hospitals within their network? If you said, fuck all, you got it. It's, so you get to, and it's just, you get to think about healthcare in a way in this country that you just you don't do any other place. You don't get to do it any other place. Because you've got to work out, okay, so this one doesn't have a single decent heart specialist on network. So, okay, am I planning on having any kind of heart problems? Well, I kind of wasn't, but yeah, I guess that's the sort of thing that in this country it's possible to just sort of rule out in advance, which is kind of neat. And you have all these comparisons, you have all these fucking plans, and you can only compare 3 at a time. But never, not to worry, because they've got this innovative star rating, where they've just sort of given everything 3 stars. Like, there was a company I'd never heard of. In fact, it was almost all companies I had never fucking heard of. Which means nothing, because the ones that I've heard of all suck shit. But so it got 3 stars on the quality rating. You click on the quality rating to find out what that means, and it means they gave it 3 stars. They gave it 3 stars, like 3 whole stars. They gave it that. And if you want to know exactly what that means, you just you just Google it, you Google company name and reviews. And then it turns out that there are hundreds of pages of customer reviews, and they all range between useless bastards and evil sadistic fucks. It is impressive. Nobody gets more than 1 star, but on healthcare.gov, they understand that the real problem in healthcare is that health insurance companies aren't getting the recognition they deserve just for participating in this racket. So they all get 3 stars at least, for no apparent reason, and that's how I spent my fucking afternoon. So there you go. Oh, another link spammer with a Russian name. Svetlana Susanina. A тебе, Svetlana. Okay, yeah, so that's fun, because then you get to shell out $200 a month or more for an insurance policy that, oh, hello, Mask of the Red Death, that you don't actually know whether it's going to... You get the excitement of not knowing whether it's actually going to cover any of the shit you need until you actually need it. That's... Like, Vegas is boring, because they have to actually publish their payout percentages. But insurance companies, they get to surprise you. The romance is still in there. The excitement, the thrill. Am I actually going to get coverage for this life-threatening condition? And 70,000 people find out, fuck no, you're screwed. Every year. I mean, that's over 29/11s a year just from the insurance industry. Maybe those drones should be someplace else. Well, yeah, so that's that's been my day. And with that, I'm gonna play a little bit of Rapid. How are you doing, Mask of the Red Death? Such an apposite name in this wonderful period that we're all living through. Okay. Shunindo Reboki. I mean, I have to say, I don't think I ever read more of Mask of the Red Death than what was quoted at the beginning of The Shining. But I don't remember there being quite as much of an emphasis on academics in the narrative there. And I think that's just brilliant that kids are having to go to the wonderful infectious schools, wondering who's going to die next, and they have to worry about their fucking academics too. Like anyone gives a shit. I mean, God, what fucking country. As I said yesterday, at least the captain of the Titanic was trying not to hit the iceberg. Yeah, it probably isn't that surprising. I mean, I don't think Poe actually really emphasized test scores in much of his work. In fact, I seem to remember that being one of the major criticisms. That he just didn't, the importance, like in the Pendulum, there is not a single Scantron sheet. Okay, got my Botfinic doing its Botfinicking. Okay. Yeah, they probably hadn't, you're right. How did anyone learn anything without Scantron sheets? God. You may be onto something there, actually. You may really be onto something there. But still. Whatever happened to no grotesque protagonist left behind? Oh shit. Conche tu madre, weón. Okay. Well, no, I still got this. Oh, okay, that works. Not as much, not the way I was kind of hoping it to, but it did. It did work. It had an outcome. Okay. Down a piece. And that fucking knight is in a place I really don't like having it. How's the audio, by the way? I have learned that just because I actually spend 10 minutes running through the different audio levels on OBS before starting up, that doesn't necessarily mean that it sounds the way it sounded when I was testing it. Excellent, glad to hear it. Okay, take that open file. 이름 묻지 마세요. 이름을 묻지 마세요. 이름을 물으시나요? Oh shit, that's also not a great... it might not be terrible. I had to go back to that part where I was actually winning them on stream for a while. Okay, we'll trade rooks if you'd like. That was fun when I was actually winning them on stream as opposed to only ever winning them off stream. Oh, that's weird. It seems like there's some sort of lag on OBS with my chat. Let me see what happens there. Ah, there we go. Okay, that's useful to know. Well, you must have told me that in chat, because I didn't see it. I just noticed that there was a difference between what OBS was showing me and what my chat window here was showing. Apparently, if I just type anything as a message, it deconstipates itself. Oh, thank you. Another one of these wonderful link spamming people. Natalia Ruzheva. Yeah, fuck knows. I have to say, I pretty much always did that. Although it turns out we're doing it wrong with the reading of the books. Like, the way it works, I mean, both Slavoj Žižek and Aaron Bastani are showing us the way with this. Apparently what you do is you just review the thing without reading it, and that counts. That's okay. I mean, I still can remember the time on Facebook Aaron Bastani of Navarro Media defended Kill All Normies, despite admitting he'd never actually read it. Ooh, thank you, that works. 공중 기적들 Yes, knew that was going to happen. 이름만 들어도 원소들 무서워 꿈에 통로에 돌며 똥만 보이지 아무 손도 개부림 살아다. And now it's constipating itself again. That's annoying. Okay. 3 connected. Well, no. It's actually only 1 passed pawn at the moment. Okay, yes, I'm buggered. Yes, in retrospect, it really did suck shit, this idea. I have definitely had better ones. It was what healthcare.gov would call a 3-star move. Say, can we get some... Yeah, no. We're not going to get any stalemating action there. GG. E-Grubs. The one-stop app for all of your mealworm needs. okay, well. Yeah, I'm actually still fairly close to artificially castling, so I guess that can work. Ah, GG. Ah, rematch. Yes, of course. That was such a short one after all. Oh, well, they resigned after I managed to pin the queen. After I pinned the queen to the king in a way that also gave me a rook fork immediately thereafter. Personally, I consider that a premature resignation, but I will accept it. Okay. Okay, do I want to take that? Yeah, I think I do. Open up a nice wee discovery there. Okay. Oh. Wait, you drank you caffeinated yourself specifically to watch me take that hanging knight just now? Oh, that's lovely. Hmm. Yeah, it has been a bit, hasn't it? Oh, wow. Link spammer. Do you have any idea what this... I get people spamming this specific string of characters and similarly formatted strings in every single stream, and they make absolutely no sense to me. I mean, getting blocked one way or another, but I'm still kind of curious, because it isn't exactly a link. Yeah. It is not the droid anyone would be looking for. You gonna take them? You taking my rook? You not taking my rook? What are we gonna do here? Okay. Well, have a good sleep, and I'm glad you popped by. It's nice seeing you. Well, there we go. Okay. 이 모든 승리가 시작되고 없이 빛나는 불 그 용도가 위
어쩌면 그리도 친근하실까.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. Oh. Alright. Oh, that thought that was a take back and it was a draw. Well, GG. Okay, gonna switch gears and look at some chud content. Okay. Oh, here's one I can remove from reaction fodder. That's kind of neat to see. Defeating Caleb Maupin. See, I don't know if that would actually even make really good content, really, because, I mean, they would sort of cancel each other out. Oh, where the hell is it? Ah, you're okay. Gonna finish up this video from last night. Well, this was a strategy to end racism with a constitutional amendment, and, well, wouldn't fucking work. Vosh manages to just zero in with laser-like accuracy on the worst possible take.
That a racial inequity is caused by a racist policy. We have to prevent public officials from dividing Americans through racist ideas. You can't
See, I mean, this is the most, like, liberal way of talking about any of this. It's like, you acknowledge the problem, and then the solution has is, like, somehow weirdly unrelated to it. It's just this weird procedural mechanism that's supposed to fix everything.
Political divergence and political difference. But when you can fix is making sure those ideologies are based in facts, are based in reality, are not based in bigotry. The one word I would...
Yeah, this is like a child's, like, how do we fix racism? We just have to get people to listen to the facts, man. We just have
What's with this sudden use of ain't, by the way? I don't think I've ever heard Vosh say ain't before. And now, all of a sudden, he is saying it in response to this guy, who I should note also isn't saying it. That's not at all sketchy.
Okay. Say about American politics, like really any politics, is power. All of the laws or any of the cases that have not allowed for each and every American to easily be able to vote has broken American politics. It tells you
No,
basic.
it hasn't. That's the thing. It hasn't actually broken shit. I mean, that for it to have broken anything, first of all, it has to be functioning in a way it's not supposed to, and it is very simply functioning in a way that it is perfectly supposed to. And second of all, it's not like even if there were no barriers to the vote, that's not even half of the problem with the ridiculous monstrosity that is the U.S. electoral system. I mean, you have this wonderful situation where opposition parties are technically allowed, except the hurdles for access to the ballot are set so high that it would be virtually impossible. You have, I mean, primaries that they were happening, if primaries were carried out in the way that they're carried out here in a country that the U.S. wants to, it doesn't like the government of, there's no way that they would possibly consider that it legitimate, because it is just such a fucking joke. I mean, even basic things like everybody is casting for their votes for the same slate of candidates, or you don't hear the results aren't announced until everybody's voted. Even shit like that, just basic shit, is not. I mean, so even if you were to do that, it's not like that would suddenly fix everything, because the vote fucking doesn't matter.
2013 that effectively stripped the Voting Rights Act of its
This is true.
words, which then basically allowed states who had historically discriminated against voters of color to basically enact new and sophisticated voter suppression techniques. What has ruined
Yeah, and they've done it.
many
And the Democrats have done fuck all to oppose it. Like right now, there's a bill that might possibly get fix part of it, assuming it made it through the courts and everything like that. And of course, the rotating villains are against it. And the DNC shows absolutely no interest in using the whip to, convince them to vote the way their consciences tell them, even though the whip, they are otherwise not known for sparing the whip. I mean, the whole thing, it's just such a fucking joke.
the Americans from coming together and finding common solutions to.
I noticed that when he's speaking just vaguely about platitudes, he comes off a lot more reasonable than when he actually tries to talk about
Oh, well, I mean, because what we're all looking for is for somebody to sound reasonable to Vosh. That's what we care about, is sounding reasonable to Vosh. And what gets me is, when he's talking, he sounds what he was just talking about was like nothing but fucking platitudes, though. Yeah, Americans coming together and finding common solutions and broken politics, and I mean that's nothing but platitudes. And it's like, oh wow, and he says all this shit that I mean is like 1,001 fucking campaign ads, and Vosh is like, oh holy shit, now he suddenly sounds reasonable. He's telling us a lot right here.
To common problems has been Americans imagining that they're distinct and different than other Americans, that other Americans are the problem, until we can ultimately see
Well, some of them are, but not in the way that racists fucking imagine. I mean, see, the fact that somebody happens to have a U.S. passport does not automatically mean we all have common interests. Jeff Bezos has a U.S. passport. His interests are diametrically opposed to literally all of humanity. And that includes people in the U.S., though people in the U.S. are often convinced, there's much effort goes into convincing people in the U.S. that there's somehow something completely separate for the rest of the species. But, yeah.
fundamental problem is policy. I think we'll be that much better off. And so to me, racism, the more
It's so weird. I mean, that this. Okay, he proposes what is, I mean, about as radical as a reformist solution can get. I mean, the proposal is that there's a Department of Anti-Racism. You might want to work on the acronym there, but that pre-clears every single policy to make sure that it isn't racist in intent or impact, and then monitors implementation to make sure that does not change, and all this sort of stuff. And all he wants to do with this massive shift in politics is apparently, like, kind of reinstate the Voting Rights Act. I mean, we're not seeing everything. Maybe he says other things, but it's like such a sweeping solution, and all you're worried about is the fucking voting.
American democracy.
That's so very AU.
This is really worthy of a Politico bit. This is
Yeah, actually, fucking boring liberal shit is kind of Politico's brand. That's their trademark. They fucking boring liberal shit.
freshman sociology student at any university in America and get roughly this answer. Like, yeah, dude, racism is a product of, like, inequality, and, like, it's bad. People think we're different when we're not. People don't even see the racism that's there. And then when you actually read, like, the actual prescription here, it's fucking batshit, you know? About this guy is so spicy. Love to read these songs. He loves them. I don't know, like, oh no. Some white colonizers adopted black children. They civilized these savage children in the superior ways of white people, abusing them as props in their lifelong pictures of denial while pitting the biological parents of these children.
And yeah, that's fucking true.
Oh no. Person deleted their thing. Yeah? Is this from the tap dancing toddler thing? I know a bunch of people got mad about this. This is despicable. Guys, people like this should not be the representations for anti-racist advocacy, especially not when they're saying
What?
unironically racist bullshit like that.
Oh, here we go. We've got a reverse racism here. He's talking about reverse racism. I mean, like, let's just kind of stop and say, as much as I disagree with the liberal shit that was that proposal, what he's talking about here is a real issue. In fact, there was a fucking case that was just a really horrible one in the Pacific Northwest a couple of years ago, where it turned out this white family had adopted a bunch of black kids, apparently specifically to kill them. That was a thing that happened and that the state allowed to happen. So yeah, to talk about, I mean, and note he just says some white colonizers adopted, in quotes, black children. He doesn't actually specify what he's talking about. Well, the tweet itself was deleted by the author. Maybe that provides some specificity, but we don't have that. And I mean, at the level of generality he's writing at this at, there's absolutely nothing even factually inaccurate or even particularly out on a limb to what he's saying. That is literally a fact. You can look it up. Historically, that's a thing that's happened. And in present time, you also get some fucked up white people that specifically want to adopt black kids, and it's not a healthy situation, and it is a racist situation. And of course, to Vosh, that is reverse racism to even acknowledge that kind of racism.
Okay? This is bullshit. People like this should not be the fucking face.
What's bullshit though, Vosh? I mean, seriously, you saying that never happens? Is that what you're saying? That no white colonizers anywhere ever adopted black kids for the purposes that he describes there? Are you actually going to say that has never ever happened, that it doesn't happen and never has? Seriously?
This was in regards to Amy Coney Barrett's adopted kids, not the tap dancing thing. Dude, this is literally, I mean, he might as well have called them the C slur.
Oh, fuck you, the C slur. Of course, oh, I should have known that Vosh would jump on that bullshit.
There's no difference. Anytime when black people do this shit, what they're essentially saying is like, oh, you're black, but you're acting white. You're in white culture now. That makes you bad. Okay?
Where do you even get that out of this? First of all, Amy Coney Barrett's a fucking white supremacist, and yes, a certain amount of side-eye about the fact that black kids were allowed to be adopted into that fucking family is entirely warranted. So, I mean, there ought to have been a fucking inquiry into how that could be allowed to happen. But, when it comes to... I mean, it's like those two buttons in the meme. Because Vosh can either say, oh yeah, actually this guy's right, there's something kind of fucked up about allowing Amy Coney Barrett's family to adopt black kids that they then use in order as just mostly as a racism alibi. Might just not be a great thing because they're white supremacists, or slagging this guy off and talking about fucking reverse racism, which does not fucking exist. And, I mean, the non-racist option just is unthinkable to Vosh. He has to find the racist way to respond.
That's like, this is the... You guys seriously know what the C slur is? C-O-O-N. I can't say it, okay?
Oh, yeah, right, that's what he was talking about. That's the slur that he was talking about. Yeah, I buy that for... I mean, and he does this every single time. This is like... He will say some fucked up shit, and then he either completely misdirects, like he just did there, or like when he was talking about Professor Flowers and claimed that she had endorsed the literal Holocaust, which, funny story, Vosh kind of endorsed literal Nazi talking points about Jews just a couple of days ago. So, yeah. I mean, he does this it is a gaslighting move. This is the sort of shit... Now, I'm not saying anything beyond what I'm literally saying here, but this is a sort of move that you see in abusive relationships, where somebody will call you on something, or, either directly or by asking, oh, what did you mean by that? Or something like that, and then they suddenly take it off in a completely different direction just to send you off balance. And he does that a lot. Now, all I'm saying is that he does gaslighting kind of behavior on stream. Don't take that anywhere beyond that, because I don't know anything about what he's like off stream, apart from that he's also an asshole on Twitter. So he has great brand integrity there. But yeah, this is just fucked up.
Ivermex Kendi, you dumb fuck. Really? Well, Ivermex Kendi appears to differ, because unless Ivermex Kendi was knocked unconscious by a disabled 8-year-old.
Oh, wow, we get some ableism in there, too. I mean, it wasn't enough that he was doing his very explicit racism.
They typed this up. I think that I am, in fact.
Also, the two things don't have to do with each other. He can have a ridiculous liberal proposal that would never happen and would not work and could be easily turned into the opposite direction by malevolent right-wingers in the blink of an eye, and still have a point when it comes to the issue of racism in adoptions.
Quite more capable than Ivermex Kendi speaking of this issue.
No, you're completely full of shit on this issue.
But hey, I guess I don't have any evidence that wasn't actually typed up by like a dog that ran across the keyboard or something.
Jesus Christ. I mean, see, it is just deep, this guy. Because what gets me is there are certain sort of conventions for racism in left spaces. You encounter racism in left spaces. There's plenty of it. It's something that obviously we need to do a hell of a lot better with. But usually it tends to be a little bit masked. Usually it'll be something, it'll be somebody talking about identity politics. And when you listen to them long enough, it turns out identity politics means any concern that is not primarily that of straight white guys. Or whatever. But what he's doing is just literally the sort of shit Rush Limbaugh would say it like this. Like, this is just straight up the sort of thing that you would get on PragerU, or, if you listen to Ben Shapiro or, you know, even, I don't know, fucking Richard Spencer. I mean, I am mystified that he has this reputation of somehow being on the left. He's just an asshole debate pro dickhead who is unabashedly racist. And not to mention has a history of being seriously transphobic as well. Like, how exactly, where's the idea that this guy is a leftist come from? Because I've never seen any sign of it. I've never seen him embrace anything that is leftist. Okay. Now we're gonna move over here to...
We decided...
Hold on a second, because I've gotta... Somebody was nice enough to list everybody who is in this this next video, and I'd really like to actually get this list down here. Okay, yes, and it's Sly Norton who was nice enough to do this, so this is their work. I'm just reporting their findings, not taking credit for it. Let me just make sure that's all lined up nicely. Yes, it is. Okay, and now we're going to hear about the lies against Caleb
to
Muppet.
make this video because of the lies being spread about someone very important to us. Journalist and political analyst Caleb Muppet.
The lies have got to stop.
Lies have got to stop.
These lies have got to stop.
Oh, I'm getting an idea that maybe the lies have got to stop.
These lies about CPI have got to stop.
The lies have to stop.
The lies have got to stop.
The lies need to stop.
The lies.
Now, here are the people to be looking out for. Okay. We've got Magnus Van Vidya, the public facing spokesperson for the Boogaloo movement, who is the white supremacist who was platformed by Jimmy Dore a while back. He likes to post, he likes to post helicopter memes, you know, about dropping communists from helicopters. We've also got, let me see, there are a couple of others to watch out for. We got Daniel Burke of the fascist LaRouche movements in here.
Lies have got to stop.
These lies about Caleb Maupin.
The lies that are being told about Caleb Maupin.
Lies about Caleb and CPI need to stop.
Have to stop.
Well, what lies, though? I mean, somebody thought this would be a good idea to edit together like this. I'd love to see what the statistics are and how quickly...
Have got to stop.
Have absolutely got to stop.
You people are smearing him with lies, fabrications, and distortions.
The idea that Caleb Maupin
Who's
is a
you
fascist,
people?
neo-Nazi, white
Eh,
supremacist, Trump supporter, or some sort of racist is completely bullshit.
well, then why has he got fascists defending him in this Stop the Lies video? I mean, it seems like he's quite comfortable with fascists. He doesn't mind being defended by fascists. See, personally, if a bunch of fascists decided to come together and make a video defending me, I would have to really question my life choices, because it would seem like I probably really fucked up.
Stop treating him like Richard Spencer. You're making yourselves look foolish.
Long before Black Lives Matter was ever tweeted, Caleb was a...
Yeah, notice, I mean, let's just a little bit of context. According to Caleb Maupin, Black Lives Matter is just sort of a conspiracy.
attending court with police brutality victims. He recorded...
Oh, this is just shit from his cartoon video that he had the poor judgment to make. This is from ages ago. Who the hell is still talking about shit, relatively minor shit they did 20 years ago? Now.
Two teenage girls who had been beaten up in front of Collinsville High School. it was his.
In 2010, so this is 11 years ago. And he's still crowing about this shit. Like it proves anything about him right now.
Footage that got them acquitted.
In 2015, Caleb risked his life trying to bring medical aid to the people of Yemen who were being bombed by
Again, this is just the shit from his cartoon video.
Saudi Arabia with U.S. support.
One of the main voices making these crazy and over-the-top allegations against Caleb Maupin is the Communist Party USA. This is an organization that worked very hard to register people to vote for Joe Biden. You know, this guy.
And you ain't black. Poor kids are just
Okay.
as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Yeah, fuck Joe Biden, but what the hell has this got to do with anything? Yes, what is it? The idea is they've run out of good things to say about Caleb Maupin, so they're like, okay, why don't we put somebody who isn't Caleb Maupin on here, who definitely sucks, and the idea is, you know, he isn't Caleb Maupin, and he sucks. Caleb Maupin is Caleb Maupin. Therefore, Caleb Maupin does not suck. Is that the logic we're supposed to be following? Like, who directed this thing?
Taken off the street. They're gonna put you all back in chains.
Madam President, we have predators on our streets.
This is the Communist Party of the United States engaging in individual smear campaigns, liberal Twitter crap.
Caleb doesn't need.
Liberal Twitter crap, like saying we need a government of action to fight for working families, and claiming to be a patriotic socialist, and saying the goddamn Pledge of Allegiance.
In fact, he's one of the main promoters of their important history and class struggle. I know many people who have.
Well, then why the fuck are you doing this?
Because of Caleb.
People need to actually read Caleb's work.
People should actually read Caleb's work.
People should actually read Caleb's work.
Okay, you're going to repeat yourselves all over again, or maybe we're going to talk about the fact that he was important in Occupy? Because he likes to talk about the fact that he was important in Occupy. Did you know he was important in Occupy? He gave a speech.
People should actually read Caleb Maupin's work.
People should really read his work.
People need to actually read Caleb's work.
People should actually read Caleb Maupin's work.
See, if I were contracted to make a PR defense of Caleb Maupin, one thing I would strongly advise against is reading his work. Because if you read his work, there's just no way you could possibly defend him at that point. I mean, his latest thing, where he just completely makes up a bunch of bullshit, didn't even have this thing edited or fact-checked or anything. And it is clearly just designed in hopes that the few people who will read this just vanity publication will not actually go and check it out.
People actually need to read Caleb Maupin's work.
What's with this fucking... What's with this fucking camera angle? This is like the angle they use, the POV shot, when you're about to, like a character in a horror movie is about to be set upon by stabbers or something. Slashers. Let's see.
If you want to know what he actually stands for, it's very easy to find out by reading the books that he's written.
Hey, wait. Oh, he wrote the introduction to Gaddafi's book? Oh, well. How about, I noticed they're not showing the book that he wrote where he goes through all sorts of very hateable capitalist, figures and points out that they're Jewish.
Or listening to his conversations and so forth.
As Mao Zedong said, no investigation, no right to speak.
They can read Caleb's work, they can read the CPI's other work, and they can form their own conclusions.
Is there any CPI work that isn't just Muppet's own vanity publications?
Without giving Muppet people the power of telling them what to think.
If you do, you'll see that none of the hype is true. as well as learn important information on the global struggle for.
Yeah, I totally see. This is what people actually do, is sit down. Oh, it's just people from this video. At least several of them are. We just sort of sit down on a public street and all read the same fucking book. This is totally normal.
Books are full of important but forgotten history, showing how the fight against racism and U.S. imperialism are combined.
What was cut out there?
Learn how American workers need to stand against their wars for profit.
Caleb is an actual anti-imperialist.
Okay, so the idea is that the only place that you could possibly learn about the relationship between U.S. imperialism and racism is Caleb Muppet? Like, I mean, this is the worst ad I've ever seen for somebody's books. He has to make every single goddamn thing about himself.
Caleb Maupin is an anti-imperialist through and through. A progressive socialist through and through.
What the hell? A progressive socialist? What's that mean? I mean, progressive is just fucking liberal bullshit. I mean, what does that mean? He's like a socialist, just but liberal, and also likes to hang out with fascists?
There were so many young revolutionaries that felt a need to send me Facebook messages and emails while I was in Iran, informing me, as if I didn't know, that the Islamic Republic of Iran are not communists.
Yeah, well, it does sometimes sound like he doesn't know that.
Well, this is blatantly obvious, but it's irrelevant. I don't support the Islamic Republic of Iran because they're communists. Malcolm X wasn't a communist. Cesar Chavez wasn't a communist.
Cesar Chavez also scabbed on undocumented workers.
John Brown wasn't a communist. If you have an ideological criteria or checklist for who you will stand with against imperialism, you aren't going to get very far in the real world. That's just a fact.
Except, that doesn't... Okay, let's unpack that a second, because there's standing against imperialism. Like, it's one thing to say the U.S. needs to, like, keep their hands off Iran and, you know, debunking lies like the idea that Iran has nuclear weapons or even intends to acquire them, which the National Intelligence Estimate says is blatantly untrue. But then supporting is another thing, because the thing is, you can't actually support... It isn't just that they're not communists. They are actually anti-communist. So there is a limit, because there are certain things where you're going to come into conflict with. Now, that doesn't mean that what the U.S. is doing to Iran should happen. But you can't just say there is no ideological criteria. There is certainly, in terms of... Because when you get down to it, the question is not just what you're against in a particular moment, but what you're for. And at some point, if what you're for is diametrically opposed to what they're for, there's going to be a conflict. And you can't just paper that away with like fucking slogans, unless you're just a talking shop and it doesn't matter. You have to just realize that.
I've taken great risks and stood shoulder to shoulder with many people I strongly disagree with at Occupy Wall Street protests and at Black...
Oh, yeah, there we go. He was at Occupy.
Lives Matter protests, and I'll do the same internationally.
Communists should read City Builders and Vandals by Caleb Maupin. Caleb argues that many leftists have been reduced to vandals in that their sole purpose is to destroy rather than build.
Yeah, which is bullshit also. Like, what's he building exactly? And what does it have to do with communism?
Caleb has been working really hard to bring people together through an economic lens, through the working class, through uniting people in the United States who are suffering, not just because of the pandemic.
He's trying... This is just, like, trying to create... See, just a cult of personality, because it's one thing if there are specific lies, allegedly, that they want to address. That you would just address those. You would just say, no, that's bullshit, here's why it's bullshit. Instead, it's just the usual fucking talking points, just without the cringe cartoon, all about how absolutely brilliant he supposedly is, despite the fact that he's never actually done much of anything.
Because of everything that led to it.
The Empire wants us to be doing that, right? Not to be fighting
future of America will not be determined by silly Twitter feuds and Facebook debates.
State agents.
Which is why you've gone to all this trouble to create a video to add to a silly Twitter feud and Facebook debate.
And a lot of these operatives to really stop any sort of revolution from actually happening.
I see. So anyone pointing out how full of shit Caleb Maupin is, how dodgy his associates are, the fact that he can't even produce a video like this without literal fascists in it. Yeah, they're all COINTELPRO. Everything's COINTELPRO except Caleb Maupin.
The only purpose they serve is to attack communists like Caleb Maupin, who refuse to line up behind the Democrats.
We should be.
Most of the people that object to Caleb Muppet's bullshit also don't line up behind the Democrats.
Forces against the U.S. government and imperialism.
I've known Caleb for 10 years, and he has always been committed to an anti-imperialist fight for the improvement of conditions for people all over the world, the future of humanity.
In order to bring people together, you have to bring them.
And what's with these backdrops? I mean, where are people shooting these? I mean, it looks like she's in one of those like photo booths at the mall.
And Caleb has been trying really hard, as have many of the members of his organization been talking and outreaching.
Many of the members. How many members does this organization even have? I mean, I've seen videos of them having what they consider a rally, and it's like 5 or 6 people.
People who a lot of the left has lost to the right.
Socialist politics and liberal politics are not synonymous.
The future.
Oh, yes, that's right. They're not synonymous. In fact, they're in many ways diametrically opposed. And to the extent that, and whenever Caleb Muppet actually makes proposals, whenever you can actually look at things that he proposes to do, it is just straight up liberal bullshit. It's, at the most, it's sort of like piss weak social democracy, but then it's got a little bit of sort of subtle anti-Semitism in there always.
The future of America is with the broad masses of people. Black, white, Asian, Arab, and Latino. One united class struggle against the bankers and war makers.
Let us not.
The bankers. What about the other capitalists? So we're okay with the other capitalists
Forget
now?
what Lenin said. Therefore, it is our duty, if we wish to remain socialists, to go down lower and deeper to the real masses.
Get out.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't sink lower than standing Caleb Muppet in a cringe video like this.
Liberal milieu, if we actually want to reach the broad masses of working people.
We just stop all the childish bickering, get out of the movement, and get to the masses.
I read about how when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement was organizing and protesting, there were obviously many people who disagreed with them for various reasons.
Oh, okay. And what does this have to do with anything?
Sometimes these people who did not agree with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., they would assemble and they would have manure and feces and they would throw them at the civil rights marchers. Did you know this? This happened. The Southern racists, go away and would throw literal feces.
Like, what the hell has this got to do with anything? This is just the most random shit ever. I thought we were stopping the lies. They haven't actually even said what any of the lies are that people are supposed to be stopping. It's just, stop the lies, stop the lies, stop the lies, stop the lies. Actually read what Caleb wrote. Actually read what Caleb wrote. Actually read what Caleb wrote. Here's some ancient footage of him from like 2009 that is somehow relevant to something. He held a placard in Cleveland in 2009. He can't possibly be at all dodgy because he held a placard in Cleveland in 2009.
And I remember reading that as a kid and thinking, my goodness. Now, imagine one of those people was sitting in front of me. What would they have to say to me today? So you threw feces at Dr. Martin Luther King. You threw feces at the civil rights marchers. How do you defend yourself? What would they say? Well, everyone else was doing it. Well, Martin Luther King was bad. He was like opposed. They would have no defense. They would feel despicable, right? How?
Yeah, see, that's pretty optimistic because I've seen people who've done shit like that much more recently, like Nazis, who've done that sort of shit and more, and they have absolutely no trouble making apologetics for what they did. They mostly just talk about what an awful person their victims supposedly are. They have absolutely no difficulty doing this.
How can you look yourself in the face having done such a thing?
In the face?
With that understanding that you should never join the mob, you should never just go along with popular sentiments. It's with that understanding that, as someone who works in the press, I will never throw shit at Russia. I will never throw shit at Iran. I will never throw shit at Venezuela.
Well, Russia pays his fucking paycheck.
Never throw shit at China. I am not going to join a campaign to lay the case for war. I will never...
And, okay, that's not wrong. In fact, I mean, one of the most ridiculous things that we are often asked to do is to join in whatever the denunciation of whatever the current official enemy du jour is. Often without actually having enough information to even know what the case actually is at that point. It just sort of, we're just bombarded with that shit. And there's absolutely no good reason to join in, because even if we do, we achieve nothing by it. Even assuming that they, because pretty much every state in the world has at least some horrible shit that they're doing to some extent. But us joining in a chorus, again, with, you know, a bunch of war criminals and horrible people like Hillary Clinton, that achieves absolutely nothing for the victims of, say, of repression in Russia or China or pretty much any other place that is an official U.S. enemy. It doesn't achieve anything. In fact, it can sometimes actually go the other way, because it can then look like because then it looks like often the accusation is that whoever is being repressed is somehow a foreign agent. We know this has been done here with Russiagate. And when you have a whole bunch of hostile people joining in a chorus with a hostile foreign imperialist state, well, then you actually have Exhibit A for explaining that actually, yeah, they're foreign agents. Look, they're coming to protect their own. It achieves absolutely fuck all, except to help legitimize something that will almost certainly be harmful to the people that you're trying to help. So there's absolutely no reason to jump on those bandwagons. You are not doing anything good, but you're not achieving anything by doing it. But I think he would jump on whatever bandwagon he got paid for, to be honest.
I'm not going to spread lies about weapons of mass destruction. I'm going to question their allegations about Uyghurs, their allegations about chemical weapons. I will never be involved in a shit-throwing campaign when they try to whip up the hysteria.
Well, he's been involved in shit-throwing campaigns. I mean, I seem to remember something to do with Malthusianism.
Another one of their wars. I'm not going to do it. I don't care if it makes me unpopular.
That's not what makes you unpopular, though.
So when I got back to Iran...
Okay. That was...
We decided to make this video because of the lies being spread.
No, we don't need to hear it again. That was just the most random shit ever. There was absolutely no cohesive thread to it. It just was. I mean, he talks about, you know, how degenerate modern art is and stuff. And how the CIA's behind it's all. And actually, I mean, the CIA did actually have some involvement there. That's true. But I mean, this is like the video editing equivalent of a Jackson Pollock. They just throw a bunch of footage at the wall. Wherever it lands, that's where it's going to be in the timeline. No editing, no normalizing of the audio, no making sure the color palette makes sense. No, and I mean, who cares if maybe it gets a little bit repetitive? That's fine, it's repetitive, because we will get relief from the repetitiveness eventually when we just switch over to total random footage from This Is Your Life, Caleb Muppet. Yeah, that was really something. Okay, we are 13 minutes till 1 a.m. So, I think we're going to play a little bit of Rapid, and then call it a night. Panameño. Yeah, I mean, to me, the key is there's a difference between opposing the atrocities of the state that you've got, so you bear a certain amount of moral responsibility for because you have at least some possibility of doing something about it, because it depends on your acquiescence to even function, and just joining in whatever campaign is going without actually, I mean, even if the allegations have held, like, there was plenty of fucked up shit going on with the Uyghurs, and you don't need to believe Adrian Zenz and those assholes in order to come to that conclusion. China's own official propaganda organs made it very clear that nothing good was going on. So you don't, I mean, all these dodgy think tanks and the rest of that, didn't need that. But the point is, we can say, we can condemn China all we want. China doesn't give a fuck. They're not going to change what they're doing, and in fact, the US has absolutely no interest in actually taking any kind of action there. I mean, what are they going to do? Sanction China? They'd be sanctioning Wall Street. They're not going to go to war with a huge nuclear power with plenty of self-defense capacity. That's not going to happen. There's literally no reason that anything was likely to be done about any of this. And the US only started to take interest in the Uyghurs, who they had previously been torturing in Guantanamo Bay concentration camp. And in fact, Barack Obama thought that was funny. Yeah, he made an actual fucking joke about the fact that he was torturing Uyghurs in Guantanamo Bay concentration camp. The reason seems to have been, as far as I can tell, just based on the timing, is that US propagandists wanted to change the subject from US concentration camps and the atrocities that were going on there with the breaking up of the families and just torturing the shit out of refugees in all sorts of ways. They needed to find some way to change the subject, and there's pretty much always some kind of fucked up human rights related shit going on in China. They're pretty reliable for that. So they just grabbed something and they used it, and it worked fairly well. It actually did allow for the subject to be changed. I think when it comes to things like that, the question we should always ask is, what are we likely to achieve? We've only got a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of resources, a certain amount of just attention span, and the real key is, how do we maximize what we're achieving? And when it comes to atrocities, when it comes to just human rights records globally, it's really hard to make a serious argument that the US is anything other than the absolute fucking worst. Because the US isn't just whatever the US does. Oh shit, that wasn't good. What the US does within its own borders, although that's bad enough. Like, one thing, and one way you can actually measure the sincerity of a lot of these public figures who will go on one of these campaigns is, do they talk about anything about the treatment of refugees from whatever it is, whatever atrocity is that they're telling us that we should be dedicating all our attention to the exclusion of all other things? Like, because you can be pretty much guaranteed, if you're in the US, if you're in Europe, if you're in Japan, refugees from whatever fucking conflict, whatever fucking atrocity, are being treated like shit. So, I mean, one real tangible thing that can be done about a lot of these things that involve primarily official enemies is just to make sure that the people who manage to get away from it and end up in whatever territory we're living in are actually treated decently when they do, because they almost never are. But God, what in the hell was that video? Stop the lies. Stop the lies. Stop the lies. Stop the lies. Actually read what he wrote. Actually read what he would. Actually read what he would. Here's some ancient footage from 2006 where he's at a protest. Now, could somebody who was at a protest in 2006 possibly be dodgy? I mean, that's just impossible. And here's him just talking about random shit. Mostly about himself, because that's his favorite topic. Vosh and Caleb Muppet really kind of deserve each other. A ver, Pularuski. ¿Te vas a separar del alfil? Bueno, te separaste del alfil. No te preocupes porque yo voy a cuidar muy bien ese alfilito. Y también el caballo. Got a 3-minute time advantage. Okay, this is looking better than I thought it was going to. Okay, up 5 points of material. Okay. Sorry. Obstflut. Wie wird man eigentlich von Obst überflutet? Und Cheers auch. Gut. Mahlzeit. Und Doppelturm, Gegenturm und Springer und 2 Freibauern. Okay, wie die Geschichte ausgeht, das kann ich mir schon denken. Ja, tut tatsächlich. Nach mir die Obstflut. Irgendeine besondere Sorte von Obst? Okay, und jetzt kommt die Dame. Und dann wird matt geschlagen. Und mit dem Matt auch die Stunde, denn hier wird leider... okay. So geht's auch. GG, bien jugado. Und ja, es ist jetzt 2 nach 1 und hier wird eigentlich nur bis 1 Uhr morgens gestreamt, denn ansonsten wird hier nämlich geschlafen und ich will niemanden wecken. Aber ich bin also jede Woche freitags und samstags zwischen also 10:30 zwischen 11:30 Uhr, 23:30 Uhr und 1 Uhr morgens. Also US-Ostzeit in Cincinnati derzeit. Also werde ich also nächsten Freitag wieder da sein zwischen, ja, also MEZ, was wäre das denn? Naja, so 5 Uhr, was wäre das, 5 Uhr morgens oder so, halb 6 morgens oder so. Und 8, ja, gestrandet, pandemiebedingt, leider. Aber ich werde in einer Woche dann wieder da sein. Vielen Dank fürs